Hello and welcome everyone to the Mess deck profile. So today I'm going to have Mr. Zystral from YellowCard Vanguard joining us for this video. We're also going to be using his beautiful Lacus Karina mat, so do say hi.
Hello everybody.
Yeah, so I am now starting to play Messiahs as well, but I'm basically being tutored by Zystral on how to play Messiahs. So because of that, we're going to be going over the deck, but he's going to be the one explaining all the points. I'm just going to introduce the cards. We're going to go over two different builds. One of them is going to be this, we're calling the 4-3-3-2 build, which is more combo based, and we're still not sure which one's more reliant, but I guess we're sort of going towards that one.
This build uses the Metallic Messiah and the Awakening Messiah to get the massive power restand combos, which you can check out on YellowCard Vanguard. We've got a combo video for that.
Yep, link in description. And then the other one we're gonna look over is called the Korean dog build, and we're gonna talk about that a bit more when we actually get to it. But first, we're gonna go over the 4-3-3-2 build. So, starting off, we do have the Neon Messiah, whose skill is Starter, Foreigner, and GB1. When he's unlocked, you can slide him into the Soul to search your deck for a Grade 3 Messiah, put in your hand and shuffle your deck. So, why are we running this instead of the new one?
So, before, there was a bit of discussion about whether you run this or Orion, but I think with Ideal Ego Messiah now, you definitely want to run this, because Ideal is another combo piece for you to either get your restands and your multi-attacks, or it digs for your important pieces if you're playing this combo build. So being able to search that is a lot more valuable, and as well as that, in fitting in these combo pieces, both in this build and the dog build, we've had to cut back on grade 3s, we have to cut back on stride fodders, so being able to reliably search for stride pieces as well is really, really useful. As well as that, being able to search for alter ego Neos for those Stark memes is also really great, and on the whole, now that you've got either the multi-attacks or the heavy power from the Metallic Messiahs, the 5k from Orion just isn't that valuable anymore.
Okay, alright, so that's that one, and now we're going to go to the grade 3s. First one over is going to be the new one, which is the Ideal Ego Messiah at 3.
My SPs are in the post.
Yeah, so these are going to be base rarity. So it does have two skills. When you write it or when you stride on top of it, you can call a locked card, and if you do, draw a card and give your Vanguard plus 5k until end of turn. And the second skill is at the end of the battle that it attacked. If you have a grade 3 or greater Messiah, you can Soul Blast 1 and lock it. If you do, look at top 3 and call a locked card and shuffle your deck. So, why 3, and what's the main purpose of this guy?
So, he's basically a grade 3 rearguard only. You ignore his first skill. I would honestly rather G-assist than ride this guy.
Yeah.
But his rearguard skill is really, really strong because it doesn't cost Counter Blast, which is a big heavy resource in Messiah. So it uses Soul Blast instead, which you generate really easily now that you have Lady Fencer and Integral Messiah. And his effect is Soul Blast 1 to call from top 3. At first, I wasn't really happy with it because it sort of felt like, oh, we're becoming Gold Paladin meme boys. But the fact that he locks himself really easily, he hits numbers on his own, it's just really valuable to have. And if you're playing the Metallia Awaken combo, he digs for your pieces, which is actually super relevant.
Okay, so that's basically his main purpose in the deck, and now we have the main grade 3 and, well, the entire engine of the deck, which is Alter Ego Neo Messiah. So he is at 4 copies, this time max rarity. So he has 2 skills. When your Messiah G-Unit strides, specifically Messiah, you choose up to 1 card from your hand and call it to rearguard circle, and then choose one of each fighter's rearguards and lock them, so that gives you a bit of control. And then he has a GB2 at the end of your turn. If a lock card was unlocked during that turn due to the effect of your card, you may Soul Blast 1 to draw 2. So that GB2 is now different from the first Alter Ego in the sense that you can only do it on your turn, and then the specific on the stride means that you cannot use his effect when you go into a Sea Breeze if you actually do that. So any other points about this guy?
Yeah, so if you compare him to the old Alter Ego, he can't spam the GB2, so you don't have as much burst draw, but you do have more consistent draw, so it's 2 every turn rather than maybe 1 every turn or 3 every turn and so on and so forth, compared to the old Alter Ego. I think the fact that you don't have to lock one of your own units to lock theirs is a lot better because it gives you field control, as you say. The fact that you can't use them off of Sabreeze is a big negative factor, but I think the deck can cope in other ways. So he's still just a really strong ride, and he just gives you that massive, after the first stride, I usually end on 11 or 12 cards in hand first stride through his GB2.
Okay. Alright, so now let's go into the best girl in the entire clan, which is Lady Fencer of Matter Transmission at 4 copies. So this is where the 4-3-3-2 comes from, this being the 4. So when called or unlocked, if your Vanguard's a Messiah, she gets plus 2k until end of turn, so we'll be hitting for magical numbers every time. And then when she attacks, if your Vanguard's a Messiah on GB1, you can count +1. If you do Soul Charge 1, and she gets +5 until that battle, and at the end of that battle, lock her. So she's basically the one that opens a lot of your combos, and she's important for the main, like, the biggest combo of the deck as well. And are there any other points that we should touch up on?
Yeah, the magic numbers is really relevant, because up until now, the main targets for self-locking were Arrest the Messiah and Lady Battler of the Black Dwarf.
Yeah.
And the issue with those is, Arrest the Messiah only made columns the one he's called, and that's it. And Black Dwarf just literally never made columns unless you gave her a booster. So she made columns elsewhere, which was nice, but Fencer makes columns on her own, which means that even if you're having like a bad game where you don't have all your pieces, or you can only commit like half a board, she still gives you massive offensive presence with just that one card, which is really different.
Okay, and now going into the 2, which is going to be Mega Messiah. Important that actually does have Messiah in the name. So, playing at 2 copies. So it does have 2 skills. At the end of the battle that this attack, if your Vanguard is a Messiah, you can count them +1 and lock it on GB1. If you do, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and then call one as a locked card and shuffle your deck. Then GB2 gets +2k for each of your locked cards. So it has a similar function as Ideal Ego Messiah, but also has a little bit of that like extra power push as well.
Yeah, exactly. So in this particular build, it's just your 4th and 5th copies of Ideal. You're using it to dig for your Metalias, dig for your Awakings, dig for your Dynamis, just so you can set up the combo. The +2k scaling is really nice. It helps him hit the 15, which can occasionally help with a booster, but you're not going to be relying on it often because he extends your combos rather than finishes your combos. So usually you're going to attack with something him first and then something else. So he won't always get the maximum on the power boost, but he is just another nice self-locker to have, which makes it 6 self-lockers, which is just a good ratio.
Yep. And now going into the last 2 grade 2s of the deck, we have 3 Awakening Messiah still. So it does have Messiah in the name and a very simple skill that on GB1 when it's unlocked you choose one of your other rear guards, stand it and gets +2k until end of turn. So what's the purpose of this guy in the deck?
So he exists only for the combo with Natalia, which we'll go over in a second. He has a Messiah name, which is nice because he can be used on the PG at grade 2.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if you're going for like the normal multi-attack combo, then he is absolutely a dead card. So 90% of the time you see him, you're probably going to ride him, unless you're playing against something that you know is weak to high power multi-attack lanes. I think he's a bit of a weird inclusion. A lot of people might disagree with him, but I feel that with Mega and Ideal, you can now set up the combo reliably enough that it's worth going for. And I think playing him at 3 doesn't detract from the rest of the deck, because you still have Mega and Fencer for your self-locking multi-attacks.
Yeah, and then the final grade 2, which rounds off the 4-3-3-2, is Metalia Messiah at 3. So he has the first skill that says this unit cannot be locked by card effects, which is very important. And the second skill, which is GB1, when another card is unlocked or locked, this unit gets +3k until end of turn, which is what makes the main combo of the deck.
Yeah, so Metalia Messiah solves one big problem of the deck it's had since the beginning, which is a lack of scaling. If you look at the previous, combos, say GBTO5 sort of era, you hit with your Arrester, you hit with your Black Dwarfs, you hit with whatever Fencer, you hit with your Vanguard, you restand your Arresters. Even though your Vanguard column could get big, your side columns were never breaking 26k, and Metalia fixes that amazingly. Because even if you're on, say, a weak Strider, like a Transels, he's still going to get 15k from like your Transels' effect, and avoids lock himself, so he's still going to be something else for you to help push. Like, if you know your opponent doesn't have a PG, but just has lots of 10k shields, then he might be able to break through, whereas something like, say, Integral or Neo Harmonics might not.
Okay, so now done with the grade 2s and going to the grade 1s. First we have 4 of the Perfect Guard Prayer Child. So this is the one that can only guard Messiah units, and on GB1 from drop zone you can bind it and lock 2, and to draw yourself an extra card. So what's the main reason for playing this and not like the countercharging one, or is this just like the best Perfect Guard for the deck and that's it?
I think it's a bit of 50-50, because the deck is now quite counterblast heavy. You've got Fleet Fencer, you've got Mega, you've got the Strides, which we'll go over in a second, who also all cost counterblast. But the important thing about Steady State Cosmo is that if you don't want to be using the Stride skill because you want to call out, say, your Metalia to lock Neon, for example, then you can use her to lock your Awakings, and that also helps you set up the combo really nicely. She also helps you draw a card, which again digs for your combo, whereas Cosmo Wreath doesn't. I think I've experimented with Cosmo Wreath in a few builds that played for Mega Messiah, and it was more valuable then because you really needed the counter charge. But in a sort of build like this, where you're going sort of 50-50 on each side, having Steady State Cosmo to either dig for pieces, as well as being able to like lock your own units to set up your Neo Harmonics. Like say for example, you call down something out with Mega that doesn't lock itself, or you call down a trigger with Ideal. Next time you can use this Perfect Guard to lock them to set up your combo.
Okay. And next we play 3 Stride Fodders as well as Messiah Searchers. So this is fairly self-explanatory. The only question would be like, why 3 when you only play 7 grade 3s?
So, like I said, we never want to write Ideal. We always want to be writing in Alter Ego. So if you find the Ideal, you obviously want to have the Destiny Dealer to fix your ride. But the reason we're only playing 3 instead of 4 is because the grade 1 lineup, as we're about to get onto, the rest of it is very, very tight, and the other pieces are, I believe, much more important for the combo. So if you're striding, you already have Neon to get another Strider, and if you can already hit the Alter Ego, you'll be able to rely on the GB2 to draw your more pieces, which is what you really want. I think it's at 3 is enough that you can reliably have it to find other Alter Egos off of the Ideal, but more would not be incorrect, I think. I just think that 3 is enough for getting what you need.
Okay. And 3 we have, well, next we have 3 of the Sacrifice Messiah, so this is one of the older ones. So his skill is GB1, when another rearguard is locked. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Messiah in his name, you can lock him. If you do countercharge 1 and give one of your other units plus 3k, I mean, you can also select your Vanguard on the opponent's turn, as well give yourself countercharge on the opponent's turn with the G guards and whatnot as well. And any other functions? I'm sure there are some on your own turn too.
Yeah, so he locks himself, so he's one of the 2 great ones that lock himself, which means that he's immediately part of your combo.
Yeah.
So if you're not going for the Awakening Metalia engine, he still helps you make columns off of Mega, and he also refunds the cost of Fencer, which is really strong. So it means that if you want to go for the whole multi-attack engine, you can call down 2 Sacrifices, 2 Lady Fencers, and you basically get 7 attacks on your turn for free with him, which is really, really relevant.
Okay. So next up we have Dynamis Messiah, which is from the latest trial deck, and this does have the skill that GB1 at the end of the battle of this unit boosted, you may Soul Blast 1. If you do just up to 1 locked card, unlock it and lock him, and then give one of your units plus 4k, which again can select the Vanguard. So I'm assuming this is the main combo piece since you are playing it at 4.
Correct. So I believe that Dynamis is actually probably the best card in the deck.
Nice.
He just enables all of your combos so much more. So for example, if you have Fencer Dynamis,
yeah,
that's a 23k column. Fencer will lock herself in the end of battle. Then you can use Dynamis to lock himself to unlock the Fencer, so she can attack again, counterblast 1 again, soul charge again, and attack. So between the 2 Dynamis and the 2 Awakings, that's what forms the big combo. So he's really important there. But even outside of the big Metalia Awakening combo, he fulfills functions in the multi-attack self-lock engine, like say the double Fencer or the Fencer Mega as well. So that's why you play him at 4 over the Sacrifice. Because while the deck still does use a bit of counterblast, it doesn't consume as much, so we can afford to go light on the Sacrifice and go heavy on the Dynamis, because he's what really gives us our reach.
Alright, now going into the triggers, there's 4 of Super String Theory, so the draw trigger. Why do you choose to play draws in the deck?
Mainly because she has a Go Into Soul 3k effect. So, like I said, you actually build Soul really easily with Fencer and Integral, but if you're relying on Dynamis for a lot of your combos, and you've got Ideal to be fetching a lot of your combos, you actually consume quite a bit of Soul, plus the GB2 from Alter Ego Neo. So her going into Soul is really nice, plus she makes some pretty good columns with the 3k itself. So for example, let's say you call down a Fencer and you boost her with either Sacrifice or Dynamis. That's 16, plus the 7, makes it 23. If you add the 3 more from the Super String, that makes it a really nice 26.
The triggers, we have 4 of Paradigm Shift, so this is a Starvader, and normally you can't use the effect, but you can use the effect to put him back to deck and then not get anything else. So that's 4 of him. I'm pretty sure that's basically the only real role of him.
Yeah, he just prevents deck out, or if you know that your deck is thin, which it can be because you draw quite heavily, you go into, say, a Neo Harmonics, you shuffle 2 of them back in, and your opponent's like, okay, he's got 6 cards in the deck, 2 of them I know are at least crits, I'm probably dead.
Yeah, that's true. And 4 of the actual Messiah crit, which is Blink Messiah, so that's the one that when your Messiah Vanguard attacks, when you're grade 3 or greater, Messiah Vanguard attacks, you can slide him into the soul draw card and give it plus 5k. So I guess that's just like soul filling, a bit of power boost, and like also you can fetch him off of the Ideal and stuff like that to actually like just drop him and then convert that into a card in hand as well.
Yeah, exactly. One of the really important things is that the 5k to the Vanguard is actually probably the biggest part of his effect now, because like I said, we're not playing Amnesty anymore, so you're actually losing a lot of Vanguard power, and because we're not playing Flagellate anymore, you don't have Vanguard crit either. So your Vanguard column outside of integral turns is actually really low pressure. Like Basaltis is 26k vanilla, Transel's is 26k vanilla, you've only got Neo Harmonics to really push with. So having him on, say, a Basaltis turn just gives you that little bit of extra mileage, which is really handy to have. The other important thing is we're running the 8-4 trigger lineup. I've tried with 6-6, but I think the reason 8-4 is really relevant is because you're running Neo Harmonics as one of your 2 finishers. And Neo Harmonics doesn't gain any effects himself other than the Guard District, so having those 8 crits to really guarantee the 4 damage kill turn is really handy to have.
Yeah. Okay, and then for the heals, this is a split that I'm quite a fan of in like all of my decks right now that can actually use it viably, which is the one of the Fighters Collection heal, so like Karina on her own this time, and then 3 of the Megaline Extreme, so this is the Countercharge 1 or Soul Charge 1 heal. So the main purpose of this, I can also explain it because I'm going to be doing the same explanation every deck I'm going to do now, is that you can basically use this for G-Guard and actually activate the effect if you fulfill the condition, and then next time when you use this one for G-Guard, you can actually bind, it doesn't have to be the same card, it can be just like any other heal, so you can actually get that off. So there are some cases where like you're going to get the Countercharge off with this, and then next turn you can also, like when you have to G-Guard next time, you get another Countercharge or Soul Charge off of this as well. This is a bit more in like DP and Novas, you can actually get like Countercharge 2 immediately, while in Link Joker's only Countercharge 1, but still I think like this heal lineup I'm a really big fan of, so that's why I think both me and Ben are going to have similar reasons for running it.
Yeah, I've also tried like straight 4, Magalan Extreme and a 2-2 split, and I think there's no super wrong option here. This is just a little bit greedier, and it just gives you a tiny bit more countercharge when you need it. And because we're running 8 triggers that go into Soul, and we've got the Fencer, it's just a nice way to like burn that extra Soul to get the extra countercharge if you need it.
Okay, so that's going to be it for this 4-3-3-2 build, and now we're going to quickly show you the dog build, and then we're going to go over the G-Zone after that. Alright, so now we've reverted to the point where like this is how much of the deck stays, and now we're going to go over what changes for the Korean dog build.
So racism not intended. This is where the grade 2 lineup changes. We're playing 4 copies of Meager instead of 2.
Yeah.
The reasoning for this is the point of the dog build is to just plus as hard as you can, build as much advantage as you can, and just outgrind the opponent. So yeah. Meager's really good because it A, fetches more pieces, which is always a plus, and B, it just helps you enable your multi-attacks a bit more easily, because our next grade 2 doesn't lock itself, meaning that we need to have ways of hitting the 5 unlock for Neo Harmonics.
Yeah, and the reason why, I probably should have explained this at the start, the reason why it's called the Korean dog build is because this is actually a build of Messiahs that topped in Korea, and after that people started testing it, and then like because it was like the build was founded in Korea is why it's called the Korean dog build.
Yeah, we'll put a link to the guy's Twitter in the description.
If we can find it.
I have it,
Okay, that's fine.
So the next grade 2 is 4 copies of Lady Bomber of Magnetic Storm.
So her effect is, when she's cold, not on GB1, if your Vanguard is a Messiah, you can choose a grade 1 or greater card from your hand and put it onto your Rearguard Circle's locked card. If you do, draw a card. So it does specify the Messiah Vanguard, but we do have things like Miga that are actually Messiah on grade 2.
Yeah, which is really nice to have. So on her own, she may seem really underwhelming. Like, she doesn't lock herself, she doesn't get power, she's just a 9k that overall breaks you even. But the important thing is, obviously the best target is the dog, which we're about to show you now, but even locking things like Sacrifice or even a Destiny Dealer, which you can unlock on your Vanguard swing and then becomes a booster, is just still a plus. And then to round out the dog part of the dog build, we've got 4 copies of Globule Dover.
So his skill is quite simple. When he's unlocked with the effect of your Vanguard or during your end phase, you can Soul Blast 1 to draw a card and countercharge 1. And so he's also 7k, which always surprised me. I always felt like this would be more of a 6k, just because of what he does, and he's not GB1 either, but he's 7k, so he's going to hit for magic numbers too.
Exactly. So the combo, as you can probably guess, is you play your Bomber, you put down the Globule Dover locked, so that's a 9k on her own. So if you go first, then you have a Messiah Vanguard, they'll still be on grade 2, so 9k will hit numbers. And then if you draw a card off her from putting him down, and at the end of turn when he unlocks, you can Soul Blast 1 to draw another card off him. So this is just a general like nice short plus in the early game, which Messiah actually is really lacking in still. Obviously like these help a bit, but your early game is still quite weak relative to decks like say Brave or Dominate. So just having that extra draw is really, really handy. As well as that, he allows us to like play the 3 Sacrifice a lot more safely, because he's a countercharge engine in and of himself. And when you combine his draw with the Alter Ego Neo draw, then you can just survive a lot more attacks a lot more consistently, because you'll be ending turns with like 14 cards in hand. You'll be going into your first stride with like 10 cards in hand. It's just so much more heavy advantage, and it just gives you that bit of grind so you can set up more of your multi-attack combos and just push through with repeated harmonics Neo.
Okay, and then another nice thing is that, like, with Ideal, you can actually call him out. Like, both with Miga and Ideal, you can call out the doggo and, like, actually, you know, get the draw just like that. So it's not just going to be something that you can use in the early game. It's not going to just die after turn 2. It's something you can keep using over and over and over again to keep plussing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can use your Perfect Guard to lock him. You can use the Stride skill to lock him. There's lots of different things you can do there. And as well as that, while you lose the heavy multi-attack burst of Dynamis Messiah, the combination of the dog with Lady Fencer is really still handy, because you can attack with Lady Fencer, she locks herself, and then when you attack with your Vanguard to unlock things, you've got the dog which refunds the counterblast for your Miga and your Fencer, and then becomes a booster so they can go again, which is just really handy to have.
Alright, so that's going to be it for the main deck of the Korean dog build. And we're going to go over the G-Zone now, which is shared for both builds of the deck, but it's more emphasizing on the actual build that we showed you before. This was just something to give you guys to, you know, a bit more choice if you want to build it this way as well. Alright, so now we're going to go over the G-Zone. So starting off with the Sabreeze. The deck still runs it because obviously a lot of the effects are GB reliant. Not everything anymore, but still quite a lot. But you do have the problem that your alter ego will not trigger off of this because it's not a Messiah.
Yeah, though the Sabreeze is still just nice to have because the deck's not super heavy on counterblast. You've got Sacrifice to refund, it's kind of okay. And it just turns on the Fencer and the Dynamis, which means that even if you're striding a Sabreeze, it still gives you that little bit of aggro combo, like multi-tap on the first stride without too much. It just lets you build a bit of pressure, build a bit of advantage, and it just gives you higher GB counts going into your first strides. So it's just always a nice thing to have.
Next up, we're going to have 3 of the new GR, which is Integral Messiah. So, he has 2 skills. I'm going to read it upside down, essentially. So, the second effect is when he attacks, counterblast 1 and flip a unit face up. If you do, unlock all of your locked cards, yours. And if you unlock 3 or more, you soul charge 1, draw a card, and he gets plus 10k. Then the second effect isn't really used. I don't think, like, throughout all the games we've played, Ben has used it on me even once, which is when you stride it. If the number of face-up Messiah in your G-Zone is 3 or more, all fighters return all cards in their hands to their decks and shuffle them and then draw 5. So you have to have 3 Messiahs face-up, so that means, like, you would have to go into him and flip a Messiah instead of flipping the Sabreeze, for example, and then still go into another Messiah, and only then when you go into him again you can use that effect. So that part, the first part, isn't that important, I would say. I think you should be focusing on the second one much more.
Yeah, so I like to first ride him a lot because his second effect doesn't rely on anything else. It just unlock 3, get your pluses, get your 10k, get your pressure. It's just a really good first ride, and it enables, because it unlocks everything. Compared to, say, Basaltis first stride or Flagellate first stride, if you have the right setup, you can just go for your massive multi-attack combo straight away, and that's really relevant. The reason I haven't used the first effect on you very often is because I've always had massive hand size, and you've always had very small hand size going into third stride, or one of us dies before then.
Yeah,
but against decks like Luard, Gridora, Overlord, these sort of slow, grindy decks that sort of plus really hard, then that first effect becomes incredible, because they're sitting there with like a 12-card hand, 2 PGs and a G-Guard, like, ha, you can't touch me, and then you just go, bang, your hand is 5, time to end.
Yeah,
so it's really good there. Exactly. Like, sure, it's only on the third stride at the earliest because we don't have a Messiah G-Guard, but I think against the sort of decks that you want to shred the hand against, you'll be able to grind that far anyway. So the reason I play 3, most people only run 2, is because I like being able to first stride him, because as I said, unlocking everything on the first stride is something that only 2 or 3 units can actually do. And he gives you a lot more benefits for unlocking stuff on the first stride, which means you can then save your other strides for later on. And then the second copy is when you try and like either go for the push with the hand shred, or if you know that you don't have the setup for Neo Harmonics or Basaltis, you can just unlock everything again, get another plus, 10k, just a constant 36k push on the Vanguard, and then even then you still have 1 left for the BM hand shred if the game goes that long.
Okay. that works. And next we're going to have the GR from the last set, which is Harmonix Neo Messiah. So his skill is a GB3. When he attacks, if your hard card is a Messiah, you can flip any unit face up. If you do unlock all locked cards, choose all of your unlocked units. They get plus 5k until end of turn, and this unit gets plus 5k for each unit unlocked. If the number of cards unlocked is 5 or more, your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from hand to Guardian Circle until end of that battle. So, there are a few things that I emphasize while going over the skill that I feel are important, is that all cards are unlocked, but then your units are the ones that get 5k, and then for each unit, even your opponent's that is unlocked, he gains the 5k, meaning you make him like a 50k plus, and with guard restrict, which is actually fairly scary.
Yeah, so he's been the finisher of choice for a long time now, ever since he came out. And he was kind of sort of the finisher that Messiah always wanted and never got, because he just breaks massive numbers. Like, we had Amnesty to start with for a while, who was pretty strong, but just couldn't quite get there because he just didn't do anything else, just getting a crit. Whereas the Guard Restrict here, if you know, like, if you're tracking their hand, you say, oh, he's drive checked 2 PGs, or he's retrieved from his drop zone, then you just go into Harmonix and just push the game out of nowhere, and that's really, really strong. The slight downside is that he has to unlock 5 to get the Guard Restrict, which can sometimes be a trouble. Like, maybe you have to lock one of their units with Alter Ego Neo Stride Scale and then call 4 self-lockers, which is pretty easy, but sometimes you don't get there. And he also unlocks your opponent's unit, so if you set up, say, I lock this one of his front row rear guards, which is super threatening, you basically have to end the game that turn, or you unlock their thing and then they're going to kill you with it next turn, which is a risk.
Yeah, that's true. That's happened a few times while we were playtesting as well.
Yeah, but he's still just a really solid finisher, like, and the fact that you can now go into him second stride is just really scary.
And then we have 2 of the Basaltus Messiahs. This was the triple rare stride from the last set. So his skill might be a bit hard to see because of the SP color not really being too clear. But when he attacks, if your hard card is a Messiah, you can counterblast 1 and Persona Flip. If you do choose a lock card and a rear guard in any player's field for each face-up card in your G-zone, and you may lock or unlock them. And then if you unlocked 1 or more cards, you draw a card. So this is basically the more control stride. I want to ask, why do you run only 2 when a lot of us are running 4, and just like any other functions that this guy has?
Mainly because I feel that the people that are running 4 copies tend to first stride him just to unlock 1, draw a card, get their plus and move on. Whereas, as I've said, I like to first stride the Integral because it gives you a lot more aggressive power on the first stride. And even though you have to commit a bit harder to get his pluses, he gives you more of them, because you get a soul charge and a draw and a 10k compared to just a draw with Basaltus. I feel that 4 copies isn't bad either, because there have been times where I wish I had a second pair, just either as a random flip fodder or just like if I want to grind the game out a little bit longer. He's still really important for setting up the Metalia Awaken combo, as you can see if you watch our video, but otherwise, like, yeah, it's good for field control, like if you need to shut down their field in an emergency and still unlock your stuff for the multi-attacks. He's good to have, and I definitely could see 4 copies, but the reason we're not playing 4 copies is because I like to play a pair of Transel's Messiah.
So Transel's skill is a GB2 when stridden. If you have a hard card with Messiah in its name, you can counterblast 1 and Persona Flip. If you do lock all rear guards of all fighters and unlock all locked cards other than those locked by this effect. So it basically reverses all the positions of the locks and unlocks.
Yeah, and the reason I'm still playing 2 of this is mainly a meta call. So in my local area, there's still a lot of Thavas running around, and we're soon to be getting a lot of Nova Grappler Victor, who can gain resist. We already have a lot of it. Neo Nexia has a lot of resist flying around as well. And things like Transels can you just stride into him, shut down their field. And even though he doesn't unlock any of your own stuff during the battle phase, so you don't get any of like these heavy attack multi-unlock combos, he still just like buys you that time, that 1 extra turn to just generate a bit of small pluses yourself, find a bit extra cards, and then get ready to kill them on your next stride, which is probably, say, a Neo Harmonix. And I think that turn is really valuable against things like Victor, who just wants to kill you with the winning champ as soon as they can. And the important thing is that if you, say, go first and you G-guard, then Basaltus only locks 2, 1 plus off the stride skill, whereas Transels, if they full field you, is just a much stronger stride. It just gives you the full field control. And there's a few clever interactions you can do if you play the Lady Bomber Globule Double engine as well.
And now for the G-guards. So we're going to have 1 Destiny Guardian, so this is one of the older ones. Simple effect, when you guard with it, you choose 2 locked cards and unlock them, and if a total of 2 are unlocked, he gets plus 10k shield. So what is his function? He's
one of the 2 25k shields in the deck. Obviously his requirement is to unlock 2 lock cards, which is a little bit harder to do because you're no longer omega locking your own stuff. So to lock your own stuff during the combat phase, you have to use one of your other G-Guardians. But if you can tandem him with another G-Guardian, that's when he becomes his maximum efficiency, which we'll explain in a second. But otherwise, if say you Trans-Elves or you Basaltus the whole field, then you can safely say unlock 2 of their back row and get the 10k anyway. Yeah. So he's just one of those nice, efficient, costless plus 10k shields.
Okay. And then we have one of the new Cosmo Wreath G-Guard, which when you guard with it, you can count them as 1, and if you do, your opponent has to choose 1 rearguard in the back row and lock it, and if they do, this gets a plus 5k shield to the end of that battle.
Yeah, so this is our Griffin clone.
Yeah.
Arguably better. I actually like him more than Griffin itself. So he doesn't go through resist, which is unfortunate, and he only hits the back row, which is also unfortunate. But what he's really good for is the fact that he gets the 5k shield on top, meaning that you will still... You aren't wasting the shield value with the Griffin, but like his shield value actually becomes really relevant against, say, a Vanguard swing, so you can lock their booster for the combo, or you just want to like turn off their Persona crit on a rearguard swing, something like that. Just nice to have. So he's one of the ways to trigger your Destiny Guardian, because you can lock one of their units, and then if you have a sacrifice, you lock the sacrifice itself to pay for the cost, and you then unlock your sacrifice in their unit with the Destiny Guardian.
Okay. And we play one of the Destergan, which is one of the rare strides from the last set. So this one, when guarded with, if the number of locked cards is 2 or more, it's not just your own, but just in general, you Soul Blast 1, and if you do, draw a card. So it doesn't gain shield value, but it does go in the way of plussing.
Yeah, which is quite important, because as we've said, Alter Ego Neo doesn't actually have hard plus on his own anymore. You don't get to burst draw, he's only 2 a turn. So having Destergan to just dig for that one more piece when you know you need a PG or something, it's just really handy to have.
And then we play one of the waifu, which is Lacus Karina. So she is the flipping one. So when you guard with her, you have to count us 1 and flip a G-Guardian on GB1, don't forget. If you do, choose up to 3 of your rearguards and lock them, and your opponent has to lock 1 of their back rows rearguards for each unit that was locked. So if you lock 3 of your own, they have to lock 3 of theirs, and so on. So this is basically the hard control G-Guard, basically. This, like, you can't use it on the first G-Guard, so you can use any one of these instead. But this also interacts with the Destiny Guardian, just in general, is a very, very good G-Guard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can use the Karina heal to pitch for her to pay for the Counter Blast cost, flip one of these 2, lock 2 of your own guys, lock 2 of their back row, and then unlock the guys you locked with Destiny Guardian, and that's just a really nice strong combo. Again, she doesn't gain shield value, so if we're going back with the Cairo comparisons, she's our version of Defeat Flare. And it's still quite nice to have, mainly because she procs Karina, which can give you that burst, Soul Blast 1 to countercharge if you need it.
Yeah. And we'll play one of the recent trial deck G-Guards, which is Lady Healer. So when you guard with it, if there is a locked card on any player's field, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, she gets plus 5k shield. And if your Vanguard's a Messiah, it gets another 5k shield. So that's going to be a 25k shield, basically for Soul Blast 1.
Yeah, she's the other 25k shield in the deck. She's good to have because she doesn't force your opponent to unlock, unlike Destiny Guardian might sometimes. She costs Soul Blast, which is sometimes difficult, but you usually can afford it in the deck because you have lots of Soul Charge nowadays. She's a bit worse, I'd say, in some matchups because against, say, Nova Grappler or Thavas, which can unlock their locked units really easily, then it's going to be really hard to fulfill that condition, so you don't get any pluses at all. Because the 5k for the Messiah Vanguard is dependent on there being a locked card. So the timing's a bit awkward, but against a lot of other decks, she just gives you that bonus shield value, which you really, really need.
Okay, and then the final card is the beautiful Stark. So this is the Zerath Dragon for Stargate. Simple effect, when you stride it, count +2, and until end of turn he gets -2 drives and does not rest when it attacks, but it can attack 3 times, and you do have to ultimate stride into it, so if you lose during the turn that you use him, you will lose your entire G-Zone. So, the Stark I think is pretty self-explanatory. You're going to see it in like every single Stargate deck basically. What function does it have with Messiahs as a whole? Like, does it bring anything else to the deck that you wouldn't have with any of these other strides?
Yeah, definitely. So the problem with Neo Harmonics is that he loses to big G-Guards. So if your opponent has, say, 2 or 3 heals in hand, then if you go into Neo Harmonics, you're not going to kill them. Even though you're giving 5k to your rear guards, there's no threat. Likewise, if you have a perfect guard, if they have a perfect guard and you go to the Integral, they're just going to perfect guard the Integral, no threat there. So what you really want to be doing is looking out for what they can guard with and how much they can guard, and then seeing when Stark fits the bill. Because he is 3 swings of 36, and that's really, really strong against a lot of decks that don't have recycling PGs. He's at his best if you go into him, like, say, 4th stride, off of the back of Integral's Hand Shred. Because you've reduced them to 5 on the Integral turn, hit them with the Integral, now they probably have nothing left unless they manage to recover like a god, and then at that point you just finish them off with the Stark.
That's true, and there's potential to also build up his power a little bit with grade 1s at least, so like you don't just 36k 3 times, but you can also like possibly break a bit over 40 to actually hit them a bit more, so that's also the nice part of this unit. So
you've also got the starter, Neon, who can search for more of your Messiah grade 3s, so you can actually ultimate stride really reliably.
Yeah. And now, so this is the actual G-Zone. We're just going to go over very quickly some of the cards that we don't play in the G-Zone that you might have questions about.
So one of the kingpins of Messiah for the last year or so has been Flagellant Messiah. I used to be a big advocate of this card at a 4-of because he gave you the Omega Locks, and even going into the Clan booster he was really good because the Omega Locked helps you to set up massive Neo Harmonics turns. For example, if you manage to lock all of your opponent's field and then unlock the Neo Harmonics, your Harmonics Neo was hitting 75k plus, and that was incredible. He also gave himself a crit on the second stride or more, which gave you a little bit more Vanguard pressure. But nowadays, you've got Integral for that pressure, so you just don't need him anymore.
Okay, so that's flag.
And then the other thing that some people I've seen run every now and again is the Amnesty and the Excelix combo. So Amnesty is still really good because he gets really big on the first stride, unlocks everything just like Integral, but he gets much more power than Integral, and he can threaten a crit on the first stride. So if your opponent doesn't have a G-Guard, you could potentially randomly end the game on the first stride. Excelix also gives you mega field control. You can lock their things with your stride skill, and then go into the Excelix to kill them off, and then pump your rear guards that get unlocked. But in terms of the pumping your rear guards, you've got Harmonics Neo who does the exact same job, but more. Sure, he gains a crit, but I think the guard restrict on Neo Harmonics is more valuable because you've got lots of crits in the deck anyway. And the issue with him is that to play him, you need to have at least 2 Amnesty, and I don't think you'd have saves for that. At best, you could probably fit in 1 Amnesty maybe, but I don't think it's really necessary when you've got Integral who does the same thing.
Yeah, so that's going to be it for the other choices that you can possibly make with the G-Zone, but this is essentially the build, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was also a little bit more in-depth than I could, a lot more in-depth than I could do, but it was also a bit more in-depth than my usual deck profiles even though I do try to keep those in-depth. But so now you got 2 builds to work with, you've got this entire G-Zone to work with. The deck is fairly pricey, especially because of these 3. What would you take out if you don't have the Stark? Or what would you put in there instead of the Stark?
I think if you don't have the Stark, you probably can't afford the 3rd Integral either. So at that point, that gives you the space for your 3rd and 4th copy of Basaltis, exactly. Okay. Or potentially maybe even 1 more copy of the Neo Harmonics and 1 copy of Amnesty, just in case you need something like that.
Okay.
I think the G-Zone is also the G-Guards are slightly flexible. You don't have to have the Lacus Carina, you don't have to have the Destiny Guardian. I don't have to have Destagan either. I think Lady Healer and Cosmoroof are the 2 critical ones. So maybe even like a 2-2-1 split of some combination would also be valid.
Okay, that works. So, hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. It did end up being fairly long, but in the end it's very in-depth, and hopefully this will help not just in the Stargate meta, but will also be fairly functional in the upcoming GPT-14 meta and onwards. So I did have Zystral help me on this deck profile, so do make sure you check out YellowCard Vanguard for more of these. I'm sure that if there are changes to the deck, as the meta goes on, you're going to see that much faster on his channel than on mine, because I'll be focusing on other things instead. So do make sure to check that out and subscribe to YellowCard Vanguard, because they do make quality content. So that's going to be it for me today, and don't forget to check out the social medias in the description, as well as join the Discord channel. And that's going to be it for me today. So once again, thank you to Zystral for joining me on this video.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.